Welcome back to the Ed Show. You know, there's two things Republicans really like, and that's tax cuts and oil fields, wherever they are. Doesn't matter. They love oil. And the drill baby drill folks, well, they were out in full force at a recent House committee hearing about opening ANWR. Here we are. We're back to that. ANWR again open for oil exploration. Things started really heating up when longtime Alaska Congressman Don Young arrived. This guy makes Sarah Palin seem moderate. He once told Rolling Stone magazine, quote, "Environmentalists are a self-centered bunch of waffling, stomping, Harvard-graduating intellectual idiots. They're not Americans, never have been Americans, and will never be Americans." I think we know where he stands. Young again showed his contempt for environmentalists at a hearing on Friday. He skipped the testimony of award-winning historian and expert on the Alaskan wilderness, Dr. Doug Brinkley from Rice University. When Young finally did show up, he made it clear that he had no intention of learning from Brinkley's expertise. The congressman didn't even get his professor's name right. Let's get this.
I will tell you, if you ever want to see an exercise in futility, it's this hearing. That side's already made up his mind. This side has already made up its mind. And I call it garbage, Dr. Rice, that comes from a mouth.
Dr. Brinkley, Rice is a university.
Well, okay, I know you went to Dr. Rice. I'll call you anything I want to call you. Sit in that chair.
Pardon?
You just be quiet.
Well, but why?
You be quiet.
You don't own me. I pay your salary.
Joining me now is Dr. Doug Brinkley, presidential historian, author, and professor at Rice University. Dr. Brinkley, great to have you with us tonight. I think that's an exchange that a lot of Americans appreciate. Here's an arrogant congressman who wants to run over the environment. All you were doing, from what I could see, was and I've read some of the testimony, was that you just wanted to go there and give, you know, the expertise about what drilling would do at ANWR. I think I've got this right. You tell us more. Did you know what you were getting into with the congressman?
Well, I mean, everybody knows he's a bit of a crackpot, and so I kind of expected that, but he never shows up to Congress. He's got one of the worst ratings. If you Google him, you could look up Jack Abernoff for Bridge to Nowhere, and you'll find his name. He just doesn't show up, but when he does, all he does is say it's garbage and then beat up on people, and so I struck back. I was simply there to talk about the Arctic in a celebratory way. Dwight Eisenhower created the Arctic Refuge in 1960. It's our nation's premier wildlife refuge. I was there to talk about U.S. Fish and Wildlife and our national parks and monuments and places like the Grand Tetons and the Grand Canyon and Redwood Country of California and the Alaska Arctic, and he got into that kind of exchange with me. He's a bad faith operator, Young, and what I want the American people to know is we could be proud that we have this national park system and our wildlife refuge system, and just because we're having a little bit of a tough time now, we don't want to molest these places. And yeah, I've been getting, I'm not kidding you, thousands of letters, including from Republicans, conservatives, aghast at the way Congressman Young treated me, but it's par for the course. I found out now he's been doing this, you know, literally to dozens of people that show up on Capitol Hill.
Why do you think members of Congress like Don Young are so opposed to listening to experts as yourself when it comes to drilling for oil in ANWR or restoring anything that we have preserved as a nation?
Well, Theodore Roosevelt, one of my heroes, and Dwight Eisenhower, both Republicans, I might add, they talked about people like Young as being land skinners, despoilers, slob hunters. The hunting community in this United States is fantastic. They're conservationists, real hunting and fishing people. I grew up in Ohio. My family, my mother and father went to college at Clarion State in Pennsylvania. This is hunting, fishing country. Real people love to take care of America. What Young wants to do is line his pockets. He's, you know, a flack for the oil industry, but he's failed. He's been in Congress since the 70s. The Arctic Refuge is still there. ANWR is one of our crown jewel national sites, and Young's, I think, on his way out. The letters I'm getting from people in Alaska are just sick of him. You know, even people that want to drill in the Alaska, care about the Alaska wilderness. You didn't run the clip, but at one point he was saying, don't camp. Camping's elitist. I mean, I've gotten letters from the Boy Scouts of America, church groups that are angry at Young, telling young people that somehow camping is un-American. I think he's cracking, and it's in some ways it was sad because he's a man sort of only barely there in reality. He seems to be operating on a very on a platform that's about to collapse on him at any minute.
The congressman from Alaska continued to attack you at the hearing. Here's more.
I made a mistake when I said Mr. Rice, because I heard the Rice University, and I can get in my mind. But like I say, when we're here, we're the ones that ask the question. You answer the questions. And you may not work in the private sector.
I do work.
And by the way, I'm not asking you a question yet. You may not. And when you think about it a moment, you made a comment about me, and why I'm really pissed right now is because you, in fact, said that I wasn't here. I was over in the flow voting.
I know you were.
Okay, then don't mention my name.
Why do you think he was so upset? What's wrong with this guy?
Well, I'm really, honestly, Ed, I mean, he's not right in the head. What can I tell you? But beyond that, he just never shows up. And so there I was giving testimony. He wasn't there. And then at the last minute when the cameras started, he kind of snuck in, and you can watch him sit there and started calling it garbage. And Mr. Rice, it's a very bad faith operator. And it doesn't do anybody any good to have somebody like that in Congress. So I hope the people in Alaska, and incidentally, I go to Alaska all the time. This summer I'm going to be leading a cruise group up there. What an incredible place. You know, you go to the Aleutian or Chain, which is the Alaska Maritime area, or you go to Mount McKinley, Denali Wilderness, go to Glacier Bay. So I encourage people to go to Alaska. Most people up there are warm-hearted and great conservationists. No. Young's just an odd duck.
I tell you, Dr. Brinkley, I totally agree with you. I have fished Lake Clark up there, and I've also fished the Alagnac River, some of the most fantastic salmon fishing on the face of the earth. I feel privileged years ago having an opportunity to go up there. And when you see the pristine wilderness of Alaska, and then you hear a congressman like that go off the rails, it's just amazing to me. Thanks for sticking to your guns. I appreciate it so much. Dr. Doug Brinkley with us here on The Ed Show tonight. Next, Fox News viewers are dumber than most.